Hi, welcome to Krat's Guide to Anything. Today we're going to look at, well, specifically Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but this really applies to any system. And I'm going to talk about the roles in a party. Now I'm sure most of you are going to be thinking of things like spellcaster, tank, healer, but no, wrong sort of roles. For a party of players to work well over time, the players need to decide who is going to fill in some of the basic roles that's needed within that party. Now, one of those positions has already been filled, and that is, of course, the Games Master. This person needs to know the rules at least as well as the rest of the players, if not better, be reasonably organised, I only just make that one, be able to think on their feet. But there are some other roles that need to be filled sooner or later. Not all roles are required by all parties, and sometimes more than one will be filled by the same person. Try to steer away from one person doing all the roles, as they tend either to become power-crazed megalomaniacs or bitter, twisted, burnt-out wrecks, neither of which is particularly desirable. Also remember that everyone has sessions they can't get to. Try and have backups for all of the roles. And also a common place to put information. So it's useless to have one person tracking all of the treasure and all the magic items and everything, and they've gone overseas for a month. Did anyone get the file off them? So do we know? Oh dear. Yeah. So it's always good to have a backup. Now, in sort of the order that they're going to come up with. First job, cartographer. The cartographer is in charge of doing at least a rough map of each session. Simple enough. Don't rely on auto mapping. Don't rely on someone else having to do it. Don't rely on trying to remember exactly which of those 3 paths you came down 2 weeks ago when last time you had the session. Lawmaster. The Lawmaster is in charge of noting down, keeping and being able to produce at a moment's notice all of the bits of information that come up in sessions. It's their job to jot down and organise any information that comes up in a particular session. Treasurer. The Treasurer keeps track of the party's funds, pays their bills, organises their investments. When treasure is found, they will catalogue and deal with it, including passing magical items on to the Quartermaster, which of course leads us to the Quartermaster. The Quartermaster is in charge of keeping, storing, organising and replacing equipment. Someone uses or breaks something, they need to tell the Quartermaster so they know to replace it. Creator. This is a little bit of a strange one, but it's the person who's in charge of working with artisans and craftspeople, whether it is keeping track of orders for custom equipment or having the keep that they just inherited remodelled, they deal with it. Leader. I left this one towards the end for one particular reason, and that is because you need to play for a while with the group to find out who is the natural leader or who are natural leaders. These are the people that everyone basically trusts. So the party is split 50-50 what they're going to do. Or some emergency happens and the DM says you need to make a decision now. This is the person who automatically steps in, takes control and does the leadership stuff. And they're the main roles, and you may find that some of them, as I said, maybe one person may do 2 or 3 roles, and maybe some other roles get big enough that 2 or 3 people do the same role. Doesn't matter. Whatever works for the party. So, all of those roles are based upon who people really are, not their character. It's not the character that is the leader, but the person who's characteristics whose nature is to lead, to inspire. There are also a set of roles which you need to be aware of as the team, which are based upon the characters and not upon who the person is. So you need to make sure that you know who has the highest investigate score. So that means when you're investigating something in the game, everyone knows who to look for. Who has the highest passive perception role? That's the person who you usually want to do things like stand guard while the rest of the party is doing something. Who has the best social skills? Person most likely that you want to get to talk to the lord of the local keep. Barbarians, you're usually not a good choice for this. Who is the physically strongest character? You need to be able to lift up the iron grate that's dropped across the entrance to the dungeon while the dungeon is slowly filled with water. Everyone knows who to go for. Who has the best survival scores? Now remember, that will depend upon the climate, so you will need to check that as well. And remember also that people can aid and to help, and there are spells and there are other things that you can do to help a person to be able to make whatever role they're trying to roll. Right, thank you, and see you next time on Grat's Guide to Anything. I'd also like to do a shout out to Pexels, who the site that I nicked all those wonderful images royalty free from, and specifically to Andre Piaquidio, Winson 5293 and Renee Asmussen, who were the three artists that were responsible for those backdrop pictures that I'm using.